is Stasia. I'm back again. Today I want to talk about authenticity and that difficult growing up moment, or let's say series of moments that takes you from behind the veil, let's say, into the oneness field, into that real, raw, authentic field that actually it takes maturity to live in. And that's the embodiment of life force energy more fully. So before we get into this, there's some really thick energy this week, eh? I'm not going to get into all the astrology right now, but I did watch a great update on this week by Rewilding with Sabrina. I do a little astrology, but I'm not like a super professional in that manner. I will pull it in sometimes, but there's a lot going on, so I'm going to say go to a video where it focuses on that. Leo King this week is a little bit stressed out. So I want to talk about authenticity and this idea that most people are walking around behind a veil, behind a cloud, behind, it really comes down to the trapped emotions, the ancestral traumas, and the past life stuff. It's not like we can blame people. It's just there is a film, there is a program, there is, something inhibiting one from really penetrating and reaching with authentic presence. So, when one goes through an awakening process, part of that is a stripping down of that film or that wall or that shell and clearing a lot of stuff. And that's kind of the chaotic time of awakening, because all those things are changing. There's a lot of death processes. There's a lot of transformation. So when that's happening, that can be a step away time. There can be a lot of hermiting that goes on. We are going to get to the next tarot card. I will do that one tomorrow, but I just wanted to do this video today. But the hermiting phase isn't pulling in, and in India they have ashrams where during that really breakdown transformational time, there's a pulling in. And so there is a need to honor that, and it can be a touchy time to interact with people if they are going through that, and can be rather volatile as old patterns are blowing out, so maybe not the best connection time unless you can be a good space holder. So the evolutionary process takes us into a unity consciousness where the third eye is open and you are seeing things less dualistically and more from the bigger picture, more from, the bigger ball game that's happening, if you will. Because it is a bigger game than the individual relationship happenings that's going on. There's a bigger picture. There's a bigger web and a bigger wave that's occurring in the awakening of humanity and in your own personal evolutionary journey as a soul. So everything that's occurring in your life is part of that soul awakening journey. And when you're in it, when you're in the trenches, it can feel really hard and difficult and everything's out to get you, or you are dying, you are being crushed, everything's being removed from you, especially during this time astrologically, and with there's some Pluto and Neptune. I think there is a yod happening today that is really talking about stripping us down from things that aren't really essential, aren't really who you are, aren't what's trying to be birthed forth in this new cycle. And that can be painful from the lower 3D perspective. So in the awakening journey, and it is kind of harsh, it's a stripping, it's a very much humbling, it very much resembles a physical death process when you're doing this in your day-to-day and in your life cycle. Because whole portions, people can be stripped out of your life. Living situations, sometimes multiple things can happen at one time. You can get a big crash in your health, your finances can go down. Big things happening at once really do point to a bigger soul transformation, a place that's taking you to a more authentic way of relating. Not that that's easy, because then you make it there, and if you are one of the few coming from an authentic place now with a bunch of other people in their films, in their movie, projected emotions and so forth, that's also not a clear connection. So this becomes a difficult time in humanity, where it is kind of very isolating, even though with the Pluto getting ready to move back into Aquarius for a really, 16, 17-year cycle coming up at the end of this year, after one more bout into Capricorn, like we are getting ready for a major cycle that has to do with, of course, diversity, but humanity as a whole, and how can we work together even if we're in different spaces, even if we're on different timelines, or we're in different phases of our growth and development. There needs to be new ways to bridge and communicate between, but that also means there needs to be an awareness that people are functioning at different phases and stages. Just like we've noted, okay, we have elementary school kids, they're not the same as high school, they're not the same as college, they're not the same as adult professional people, they're not the same as the elderly. We have these general age bracket, separating markers, but we don't really have spiritual maturation markers, because you can have a young child who's extremely spiritually mature, more mature than even an elderly person, just because that's where they are in their evolutionary journey, and it's no judgment. We can learn from each other, and we have to learn from each other, and we have to stop being offended by people in a different phase than us, and learn the communication, get the lessons, take the cues, have the conversations. And sometimes the conversation is, I don't even know how to go there. You're in a place that I can't relate to. I realized until I lost my father recently, I couldn't really relate to anyone who had lost a parent, because I hadn't. I can have compassion and feel sad, but the empathy, the really knowing what that space feels like inside yourself. Different people are experiencing very unique realities, and if you haven't experienced something like that, it's very hard to relate. So authenticity. So authenticity also is a challenging one sometimes, because those walking around in the emotional baggage, and and they're not worse than someone who's not got as much anymore, they're just in a different phase. So what's authentic to someone walking around like that could be some rage, could be some projections, could be a number of things. Whereas someone walking around without that might appear freer and more joyful, and speak, deeper truths that are more penetrating. That, part of their job is to assist in breaking the barriers of these other people. And, when you're called to do that, also not a fun job. I've been in that position a lot. And I realized this does not keep friendships very long. It's good for a job, for assisting people and breaking through their barriers, but in relating to people, I tend to apply the same truthfulness. And I feel like truthfulness is so valuable, and even when it's harsh to me, I appreciate truthfulness. I can also hear if your truthfulness is coming from behind an emotional wall and you're projecting on me. I can also hear and feel that. And that's when I know not to take something personally, because I know it's not about me. And that's also something you have to gain wisdom of over time. When you deal with your own triggers about yourself, and you feel comfortable in who you are and how you're expressing, and you're in alignment, and you're living from a higher purpose, and someone tries to attack the way you're living, doesn't really faze you in the same way that if you feel out of alignment and you're not living in your truth and someone attacks you, then it's a trigger, because that is something you need to hear. So if you get angry and inflamed about something, or someone else does, you know it's hitting home hard. So, again, being able to honor that as well. Think about, again, like parent and child relationships. If a child, you know, they're at a certain level of maturity, say their toy gets broken and they're a wreck and they're freaking out and they're like, life's never going to go on, and you have the bigger vantage point. You know, you don't want to be mean and be like, well, you know, I mean, sometimes it's like mature meanness where you're like, well, it's thrown away, or there'll always be another one, or whatever, like, and spoil some of the innocence of childhood. Or you can, you know, like have empathy for them, cry too, this is a really sad moment, like help them through it, all the while knowing it's okay, this is going to be good for them. Ultimately, they'll learn how to, you know, not be attached to those things and recognize it's part of life, you know. And so that's the same thing when we meet each other as, you know, adults or grown-ups, and we all have these moments. I'm certainly not in my most mature all the time, but I do try to live from a higher vantage point, and that's what my studies and my meditation have been about and been for me. And so I do feel that most of the time I'm able to come from, you know, a detached place. Sometimes that makes, there's a certain sweetness, I guess, that I long for in being detached. That, you know, you want to have that innocent, pure experience with life again. So the moments that I let myself do that are moments where, of course, we can be hurt again. Those are our vulnerable moments, but the trick is to cultivate the capacity to then pull yourself back into the witness and manage that heartache differently. You know, like manage it in a way where now you see it's a growth moment quicker. You can reflect on it quicker. You can put it into a place where now it's serving you in a quicker manner, a faster manner. And that's the resilience we build as spiritual warriors, and that we must build. Like, we can't let every little thing get to us. We can't be attached to the old models. We can't be attached in our relationships. We can't be butthurt about everything, to use a term I don't really like, but it's fitting. You know, like, we have to be mature and realize some things are going to shift in our lives, things that we don't want to shift, with people we don't want them to shift with. And we have to honor that and see the growth that's going on and be the best human about that we can. So, yeah, that's kind of my spiel today on authenticity. And I'm just wishing you all a time out there where you can honor what's going on for you, and, you know, like, honor what's going on for each other. Like, let's be real. Like, sometimes we gotta be like, yeah, that hurt. Just say it. Like, don't try to veil it. Or like, this is gonna hurt. Or, yeah, the truth does hurt, and I'm sorry, but I love you, and I need to say it. And I'll be with you while you sit with it. Or I'll pull back and hold space for you, and I won't throw darts and arrows and curses at you, because I don't need to do that. I need to let life evolve through us as it will, and be in my highest station for that. So, okay, loves, thank you so much for joining. Subscribe, like, share, or just take the nuggets that served you today, and we'll see you again soon. We'll get on the next tarot archetype. Thanks for being patient with me. Okay, much love and namaste.